Web hacking is 90% of all bug bounties and penetration tests, but most people waste months learning tools instead of understanding what they're actually exploiting. People memorize Burp shortcuts and watch 50-hour courses, yet still can't explain why a single quote breaks an app. In the next 7 minutes, I'm breaking down every web vulnerability that actually matters and how to find and exploit each one without spending 3 years grinding PortSwigger Academy challenges that feel like homework. And before we get started, if you want to actually learn this stuff properly with real labs and step-by-step courses, join our private community. First link in the description. More on that later, because right now you need the fundamentals drilled into your brain. SQL injection is when you inject malicious SQL code into input fields to manipulate database queries. If a website takes user input and puts it directly into an SQL query without sanitization, you can break out of the query and execute your own commands. Classic example, a login form that checks select star from users where username equals your input and password equals your input. If you enter admin apostrophe or 1 equals 1 dash dash as the username, you're telling the database or 1 equals 1, which is always true, so it logs you in as admin. The dash dash comments out the rest of the query, so the password check gets ignored entirely, like it never existed. In 2025, SQL injection is still ranked 5th in the OWASP top 10, even though it's older than half the people watching this video, because developers keep reinventing insecure wheels. Use SQL map to automate exploitation. SQL injection can lead to full database compromise, including passwords, credit cards, PII, internal secrets, literally everything. That's why it's often a 5-figure bounty and why companies panic the second you submit a valid report. XSS is when you inject JavaScript into a web page that gets executed in other users' browsers. There are 3 types: reflected, where your payload appears in the URL, stored, where your payload gets saved in the database, like a comment section, and DOM-based, where the vulnerability is in client-side JavaScript. XSS is everywhere because developers sanitize input like, yeah, that looks safe enough, and forget output encoding entirely. Use Burp to inject payloads into parameters, headers, and cookies. Authentication flaws let attackers bypass login mechanisms or hijack user sessions. Classic issues include weak passwords, no rate limiting, no lockout, missing HTTP-only flags, missing secure flags, predictable tokens, and session IDs that look like a random number but actually aren't. If session cookies aren't HTTP-only, XSS can steal them. If they aren't secure, you can sniff them. Testing authentication means checking edge cases like, can you brute force passwords freely? Can you reset someone else's password by manipulating tokens? Can you reuse old session cookies after logout? In 2025, authentication failures sit at number 7 in OWASP because companies still treat auth as an afterthought. Finding auth bypass vulnerabilities gets you critical severity and huge payouts because full account takeover is basically press this button to ruin the company. IDOR is when you can access resources by manipulating identifiers in URLs or parameters without proper authorization checks. IDOR lives under broken access control, which is number 1 in the OWASP 2025 list, making it the biggest risk right now. To find IDOR, look at parameters referencing anything: user IDs, invoice IDs, order numbers, tickets, messages. Change the value. If the app leaks data, congrats. Burp Intruder makes enumerating IDs trivial. IDOR is especially common in APIs because developers assume nobody will modify parameters. A solid IDOR is easily a critical report because you're demonstrating unauthorized data access at scale. CSRF is when an attacker tricks a victim into performing actions on a website where they're already authenticated. Example, you're logged into your bank. An attacker sends you a malicious link that triggers a transfer via your current session. The site sees a request from your session and approves it because there's no verification that you made the request. CSRF tokens solve this, but only if they're correctly implemented. To test for CSRF, look for sensitive actions, remove the token, and see if the request still works. Burp helps you craft malicious requests. CSRF is now under security misconfiguration, but still extremely dangerous. Severity depends on the action. If you can change someone's email or password, it's often high. File upload vulnerabilities occur when applications don't validate uploads properly, letting attackers upload malicious files like web shells. Classic example, upload shell.php disguised as a JPEG. If the server executes PHP in that directory, you have remote code execution. Bypass filters with double extensions, null byte injections, modified headers, or file name tricks. Once uploaded, you just visit the shell in the browser and run system commands. File upload to RCE is always critical. XXE abuses XML parsers that allow external entities. You inject a doc type that loads file://etc/PAWD, and the server happily reads and returns it. If you're thinking, cool, I get the concepts, but how do I actually apply this to find real bugs? Then check out CyberFlow Academy, my private community. Inside, you get full step-by-step courses on ethical hacking, bug bounty, web hacking, OSINT, Python, C++, and reverse engineering, plus a private Discord where you can ask me anything and learn alongside people already getting insane payouts. You also get all my cyber docs, the cheat sheets, workflows, recon templates, OSINT checklists, exploit notes, and practical challenge-based labs that actually force you to apply the skills. Plus the $1,000 playbook that shows you how to make your first grand from hacking. And we include all my tools and setups, so your machine is ready from day one. If you want all that, courses, labs, playbooks, everything, it's in the first link in the description. See you inside.